Hey everyone, I'm at TIFF right now, and I just saw The Seed of the Sacred Fig, a movie which, in all honesty, is a miracle that it even exists. Let me quickly explain. The director Mohammad Rasulullah was recently sentenced to 8 years in jail. He's been rather outspoken in both his movies and through his actions that are very critical of the Iranian regime. In fact, he was arrested in July 2022 after signing a petition that basically called for authorities to put their guns down or lay down their arms, calling for them to show restraint on protesters. And there were reports that he was receiving pressure from Iranian authorities to pull this very film from its premiere earlier this year at Cannes. And no one knew if he was going to be able to show up there or not. Boom! He walks out at Cannes like a goddamn superhero. He fled the country, premiered the film, received a massive standing ovation, won an award, and then this film was recently selected to represent Germany at the upcoming Oscars. Fast forward to now, and I liked it. I'm still trying to figure out how much I liked it. I'll talk that out with you guys here. First, let me say, this is what courage is for the director, the cast, the crew to truly put their livelihoods out on the line and in danger for this movie to exist is just amazing. I feel like in Hollywood, the things that we talk about the most are just like, oh my gosh, like what a bad PR moment someone's having. But for this to have real world consequences where people's lives are legitimately changed forever or can never go back to their home country, that is just so brave and commendable. And knowing that fact about this movie, I think is important and should be talked about and should be spread to people. Obviously, you have to judge the movie on its own merits, and I will do that in a second. But it speaks larger to something that it almost feels weird to kind of give this movie a star rating at the end of it. But yeah, I think that matters. Because for this movie to premiere at some of the most high-profile film festivals, it's truly just amazing that it exists. So that's my piece. Now the movie itself, I liked. There's no like one part or like a scene or whichever that took me out of the movie or anything. I'll talk about my problems in a little bit. With this movie's message of the abuse of power by the Iranian regime and by extension its police, you can make for a very heavy-handed movie. And I don't know, but I'm sure some people have talked about the very on-the-nose messaging of this. Just with this movie's message, I'm not exactly interested in some subtlety here. And some of this movie's B-roll includes real life footage, I assume on people's cell phones, of witnessing that brutality. Some of which you see from afar and some of which you see up close with the blood spilling onto the floor. It's that kind of movie. And that certainly packs a punch, but this movie wouldn't be as compelling if it just took that and applied it to the father figure character and be like, okay, you're representing the Iranian regime, like you're evil and you're going to have conflict with your kids and wife. Like, that's not very interesting still. But without giving any spoilers, this is just the premise. The father gets a promotion where he's basically the guy to sign off on the indictments of these protesters, most of which are death, even if they didn't do anything wrong or even if he didn't actually go through and look at the file and what happened. And obviously he's being pressured to do that from the authorities from above. And I know I'm sure it's easy for someone like you or someone like me to sit here and say like, oh, I would never do that. Like I would always do the right thing. I would like to think that, and I'm sure I would like to believe that I would, but until you're in that position, you really never know, especially if you're the one that's providing for your family, and you know that if you don't do X thing, you and your family are going to be put in the crosshairs. Like, I know it's a more complicated discussion than that. That's all I'm saying. And I think that is a good starting off point for the movie to basically immediately throw you in, man, that's like a real tough call. And it's through that lens that there are just some absolutely riveting segments of this. There's a dinner table scene, and it's not even that long of a scene, but it's basically like if you disagree with your parents politically and you're sitting down having dinner and there's CNN or Fox News on in the background and one of you just isn't having it today. That's probably my favorite scene. It's everything about the movie summed up into one scene, and the performances are amazing. This movie has no weak links for the performances. They're all great. And I think the film does a good job of kind of showing how the father's own like paranoia and eventual delusion from doing his job kind of seeps and spreads into his own family life. You can see his wife and kids feel less and less safe with him, and you can see that they see his seams are just ripping apart. I actually like the more family drama aspects of this movie a lot. And the third act, which has been talked about quite a bit, at least from the tweets I've seen, where it definitely turns way more genre thriller-y. Here's my thing with this movie is that when it goes into that third act, it's not even that I found it totally weird or like it took a left turn and took me out of the movie. I enjoyed it on its own. And I realize this is going to sound strange, but I feel like the movie stopped knowing what it wanted to be. And I'm not saying that because of like the genre thriller, more chase-like moments. I'm talking about, you know, without giving away spoilers, like I don't know if they knew what they wanted the father figure to be or what they wanted him to do at the end. Because the spark that movie had, that I really felt it, I felt like it went away. And when you're watching a movie that's 2 hours and 46 minutes long, you don't want that. So it's very conflicting to me on how I really feel about this movie. But ultimately, I felt like I wanted another punch at the end to really land it home. And I don't think it did that. Although I will say the B-roll footage again at the end is a very more hopeful note. So that's nice. This is definitely a movie worth seeing whenever it comes out. I know a lot of people love it, and maybe you will too. The Seed of the Sacred Fig, 3.5 stars. I'm so tired. Oh man, here we go again.